The good things of life are not equally divided among the peoples of the world. Many don't even have food and shelter. But even if the pie were equally divided, there still wouldn't be enough. That is why the pie has to grow. And that is also why we need to restructure the world's economy and to change the patterns of world trade so that everyone gets a decent share of a bigger pie. All this is going to need new kinds of cooperation among countries. It will also take a lot of mind changing and maybe some heart changing. At the United Nations, it is called the New International Economic Order, and the UN is working to make it happen. It is not enough to pour oil into the lamp and prepare a wick skillfully. You have to light the lamp somehow. There is no place on earth, however poor, that has reached the point where millions of its citizens die because they have nothing to eat. For a time, Bangladesh seemed headed towards this nightmare. Dhaka, capital city of Bangladesh. The people of Bangladesh, most living on the knife edge of subsistence, have survived largely as a result of some $4 billion worth of foreign assistance. Bangladesh is a rice producer, yet a crucial economic statistic is the annual shortfall. 2 million tons of grain each year, a difference between what the people produce and what they need, a difference that is supplied from the surplus stocks of rich nations. Bangladesh is the most densely populated nation on earth. It is also the most underfed. Kept alive by foreign transfusions, Bangladesh faces problems similar to a group of young and destitute nations. All have little natural resources to speak of, no capital, and virtually no technology above subsistence level. There are many reasons why Bangladesh is in a state of near disintegration. An appalling cyclone and tidal wave, famine, massacre, and war, as well as political instability, have shaken the nation in just 5 years. Attempts to find solutions for the enormous problems have not been easy. Having been colonials under one nation or another, the Bengali have never before been allowed to make decisions regarding their future. Geographically, geologically, and politically, Bangladesh has little to offer except people. Half-starved, dirt poor, unable to afford the barest necessities, and multiplying at a terrifying rate.
Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah.
And still, the industrialized world's handout is a controversial subject. There is a growing disillusionment with foreign aid on the part of both donor and recipient. Mohammed Shahid is 25 and a rickshaw driver in Dhaka. Unlike most of his countrymen, he has steady work and never hungers. For as much as 12 hours a day, in blinding heat, in driving rain, a rickshawwala will pull his cab through the streets of Dhaka. Like most of the men in his trade, Muhammad has a lean, hard body. He is one of the few drivers whose gaze is not fixed and brain numbed by the physical torture. That will come later. The rickshawwalas are the focus of controversy as social consciousness spreads across Asia. Many feel that it is inhuman for one man to pull another. They would do away with rickshaws, replacing them with motorized taxis, forgetting Muhammad and other rickshawwalas, whose very existence depends on these jobs. Nobody knows for certain the number of rickshaws in Dhaka. Estimates range as high as 50,000. On a good day, a rickshawwala can earn 20 taka for himself, about $1.50 US. Though Muhammad Shahid is one of Dhaka's high-income wage earners, the grim reality of his life is a one-room shack that houses 14 men, women, and children, with the next-door neighbors a step away. No one, not even the optimists, see any way out of Bangladesh's long-term problems. Annual per capita income, even before the recent taka devaluation, was only $70. There is widespread malnutrition, undernutrition, even starvation at times. Infant mortality is high, and life expectancy short. The worst problem is the country's population growth of 3% per year. At this growth rate, the present 80 million people will double by the year 2000. Bangladesh is still dependent on outside assistance. It has no capital, no resources to do anything from within. At last count, some 120 voluntary agencies were at work in Bangladesh, 75 of them foreign. $1 billion pours into the country annually, not as gifts, however, but as loans that must someday be repaid. But the word poverty has been given new dimensions in Bangladesh. Along with its other shortages, Bangladesh has no stone, no rock, no gravel. Desperate for roads and building materials, the nation makes and breaks bricks. Bangladesh is also poor in natural fuel resources. It depends on imports for meeting its oil and coal requirements, spending about $150 million annually. A staggering drain on the country's foreign exchange. Hundreds of watery highways interlace the low-lying heartland of Bangladesh. Benefiting from unusually good weather, Bengali farmers have in 1976 produced 2 record rice harvests. But even this good news works against the nation's goal of self-sufficiency in food. For while grain depots are brimming over, most farmers are reluctant to grow more rice than they themselves need. In a nation so prone to disaster, this temporary rice glut could be wiped out by the coming monsoon. Despite the apparent abundance, the country's rice yield, half a ton an acre, is one of the lowest in the world. A dependence on imports of foreign wheat and rice only adds to the complacency. The knowledge that the world stands ready to help feed Bangladesh works against government proposals to increase productivity. But can the world let the nation starve in order to teach it a lesson? Most of this land will be underwater from July through October. Some villages will be cut off from food grains stored in Dhaka, and there will be dying. A network of bridges is essential in this country. There is in fact no direct road connection between Dhaka and the port of Chittagong. In 1969, the World Bank negotiated a project with the government that called for a series of 3 bridges across rivers that would link the cities.
All sides on clearance শুধু এখানে যদি কোনো স্ট্রাইক করে এই ব্যাপারটা কি তোমাদের কি হলো ওটা চলবে এদিকে সিগন্যাল দে সিগন্যাল দে জলদি কর এরমার চলে যায় এদিকে ছুটি করো চলো ভাই তোমরা ছুটি করো আর তোমরা ছুটি করো খালি দুজন লোক যাবে।
After 7 years and numerous delays, a Japanese firm was still in early stages of construction across the Shitalaka River. Proof that the transfer of technology is easier said than done. Almost symbolically, the bridge represents the nation's frustration. His name is Matab. This is home, the sidewalk outside the railway station. If you should ask why they are sleeping here, they will tell you that they are waiting for the train. They will say that they came from Rangpur, which is true, here to visit family, which is false. Despite the martial law midnight curfew, thousands of homeless and unemployed drifters will sleep on the streets of Dhaka. For many, this is the only home they have ever known. By day, these night people become the cart pushers, beggars, and prostitutes of Dhaka. The homeless of Dhaka number 200,000. But what statistic covers their future? Comilla district of Bangladesh lies the 43-mile-long Curzon Canal. Excavated in 1898 during British rule, it has over the years become derelict. There are approximately 20 million rural people who are seasonally unemployed, people who want work, people who need food. Each worker here will move 70 cubic feet of clay each day, close to 1 ton. For this, he receives enough wheat for 6 people. The project is a joint effort by the government and the United Nations through FAO's World Food Program, a step towards ending the propagation of a beggar mentality on the people of Bangladesh. But it's more than just work and food. The canals of the country, once dredged, can save precious water for irrigation and reduce flooding. In a 6-month period, the amount of earth moved at Curzon was more than required to dig the Panama Canal, a project that took 7 years to complete. All too often, the worst aspects of affluent societies are copied by the poor. This billboard in central Dhaka is an insult to women and men of Muslim Bangladesh. That it is directed to women in a country where women's rights are yet to be defined is ludicrous. The hidden millions of Bangladesh are its women. Nearly 38 million make up the population, and 95% of them can be found in rural areas. A girl is born unwanted, and she grows up knowing it. She is trained to accept her inferior social status. She will receive little opportunity for schooling or employment outside the home. A village girl is usually illiterate. She marries by 13 and may have as many as 12 children. Maybe 6 or 7 will survive. Rarely does a rural woman practice any form of birth control. In a nation struggling against odds for survival, Bengali women represent an unused yet potentially productive force, a hidden nation within a nation. Today in Dhaka, there is a great deal of talk about birth control. Dr. Savrullah Chowdhury is doing something about it. His medical center at Shavar, outside of Dhaka, trains young village men and women as paramedics in a philosophy aimed at improving health care in rural areas. Kanon is a 20-year-old illiterate rural girl who will today perform surgery, her 200th tubal ligation, sterilization of the female. The operation is voluntary. Dr. Chowdhury has set firm rules for sterilization. This woman and her husband qualify since they already have 3 healthy children over the age of 5. To the average Bengali peasant, always on the edge of destitution, the idea of limiting one's family is hard to accept. A man wants children to ensure his own security in old age. He feels that his wife must have many children in order to guarantee the survival of one boy. For the most part, Dr. Chowdhury is not concerned with family planning, seeking instead cures for simple yet deadly diseases. His belief is that if you can raise health standards, thereby reducing infant mortality, the traditional needs for large families would diminish. So far, the government population control campaign is little more than rhetoric. But laws that would guarantee old age pensions are being considered, and contraceptive devices are being made available. The pessimists insist, however, that population will be held down not by small forces like Dr. Chowdhury's, but by widespread famine and epidemics. 100 years ago, Britain crushed the textile industry of Dhaka in order to keep foreign markets for products from British mills. Today, the jute industry of Bangladesh, the major export commodity, almost the sole source of foreign currency, is under attack. The leading consumers, the common market countries, have been replacing jute products with synthetics. Jute end products like string, sacks, and the underneath of carpets are things one rarely hears about in the crisis bulletins from Dhaka, but they lie at the heart of the country's battle for economic survival. Losing is part of living in Bangladesh. These are some of the losers, refugees from one calamity or another. They are the former slum dwellers of Dhaka. This is Damra camp, home for 20,000 Bengali. Their lean-to shacks, called busties, are being replaced by two-family units made of bamboo matting and plastic. Set apart from the rest of society, camps like Damra were never meant to be more than a temporary solution. There is the danger that for the refugees it may become a permanent way of life. The sluggish waters of the Ganges, which flow from India through Bangladesh and into the Bay of Bengal, have become the focus of a bitter political dispute between the two neighbors. This is the mighty Padma, as the Ganges is known in Bangladesh, the landmass that has become a white sheet of sand, broken only by marks of a receding water line. At issue was a $200 million barrier that India has built at the town of Faraka. Built to save the port of Calcutta, Bangladesh claimed that the diversion of water has dried out farmland on which 25 million people depend. For the time being, the news from Dhaka appears hopeful. Good crops have temporarily brightened the picture. Inflation has been brought under control. The mood is hopeful, but tempered by caution. The nation that was called an international basket case has refused to roll over and die. In spite of all obstacles, the people of Bangladesh have not lost their will to survive.
সকল কার্য আশানুরূপ সম্পন্ন দেয় যে যে কাজে আশা আছে নিয়ন্ত্রণ যে তোমার ইচ্ছা মতো কাজ হবে খোদা সকল অবশ্যই করিবেন
Bangladesh has become a land of grim superlatives. The most crowded, the poorest people, the fewest amenities. It is also a look at the future. It is now what some other countries in the world might become. It is not enough to pour oil into the lamp and prepare a wick skillfully. You have to light the lamp somehow.